Chicago for us. Mike, thanks. John?
All right, let's bring in White House Borders on Tom Homan for more on this. Tom, I said at the top of this hour, you just can't make this stuff up. I mean, she was involved to this degree. The fact that she's a former teacher as well, overstayed her visa, and then gets released by authorities in Illinois. Thankfully, ICE picked her up and plans to deport her. But how did we get to this point?
Well, look, it's the sanctuary city policies, the dangerous policies of these sanctuary, states, sanctuary cities. Look, she was complicit in the murder of 3 people, and they didn't honor or detain her, release her back to the street. Like I say it again, President Trump has promised the American people he's going to make this country safe again, and one of the ways he's going to do that is remove illegal aliens or public safety threats. So ICE is going to continue to do their job, but let's be clear, it makes it less efficient. It makes it harder to do that job. We have local law enforcement that won't help us. And it's not the police officers in Chicago. Last time I was up there doing an operation, I had numerous Chicago police officers come up and thank us for doing what we're doing. It's the politicians. It's Mayor Johnson. It's Governor Pritzker that doesn't want. They rather see public safety at risk than give President Trump what they think a win by decreasing crime in their cities. It's ridiculous.
Well, we're really getting a view, Tom, and welcome back to the program, where some of these far-left candidates stand on ICE and deportations. This is State Assemblywoman Claire Valdez, the Democratic candidate for New York, on how she feels about ICE today. Listen.
People are really worried about ICE. We've had multiple raids in the district. People are being torn away from their communities and their families. We want to see this agency abolished.
This is what they're out there saying, Tom. To that you say what?
ICE has found 146,000 children, just shy of 147,000 children, just shy of that number, of children that were smuggled in this country in the Biden administration and lost. They rescued many of these children that were in sex trafficking and forced labor. ICE has seized enough fentanyl to kill every American 2 times over again. ICE is arresting sexual predators at a record number. We have the most secure border in history of this nation because of President Trump's leadership. This country is safer again because of President Trump's leadership. Look, what President Trump did in Memphis, what he did in Washington, D.C., can happen in Chicago, can happen in New York, if they just join us shoulder to shoulder and take on criminal illegal aliens. If somebody don't want to do that. And she wants to talk about separating families. Why don't she go have a meeting with a couple hundred angel moms that I've met with in the last couple of years who've been separated from their child permanently because they buried them, because their child was murdered by someone that's not even supposed to be here. You want to talk about real family separation? There you go right there. Let's talk about 500,000 children that were separated from their parents and put in the hands of criminal cartels under the Biden administration and smuggled in this country, and they lost track of 300,000 of them. Let's talk about that. They seem to forget the 4 years of travesty that put children and families at risk. But we are out there trying to save them.
Well, they don't seem to care a lick about that, Tom, because you have Claire Valdez there, and then there's Daria Lisa Chevalier, who said this about deportations, quote, "I'm not okay with any deportation. I think all deportation is wrong because I think it's an incredibly cruel punishment that is really only relegated to people on the basis of where they were born. And, I think that we should just not have a system that allows deportation to happen at all." She doesn't even want to deport criminals, people who've been not only just charged, but people who've been convicted of crimes in this country. No. And this is a far-left socialist movement that intends to sweep across the country.
Well, I don't think it's going to be successful. I think the American people put President Trump in the Oval Office behind me because of his promise to secure the border and remove criminal aliens, which we're doing at record numbers. You look at 800,000 deportations, about 60 to 70% of being criminals. We've removed hundreds of thousands of criminals off the streets of this country because of President Trump's leadership. We're not going to stop. They can talk the talk all they want. We're going to keep doing our job, removing public safety threats, because that's what the majority of American people want. These politicians are nuts. They lost their minds. We're going to keep doing our job, John.
But what's your warning, though, if as we work our way to midterm elections and beyond, if more and more of these far-left candidates get more and more voter support, what's your warning for the message that they're putting out there about ICE, and as many of them who have called to abolish it altogether?
Then run for the United States Senate, run for the United States House of Representatives, and change the law. What they need to understand is ICE isn't making this up. ICE is enforcing the law that many of them wrote. and enacted into law and signed by the president. And we are prioritizing public safety threats and national security threats. That should be a nonpartisan issue. American people are dying every day at the hands of someone that's not even supposed to be here. That is just a stone cold fact. And besides listening to these far left politicians, I invite everybody to go to ice.gov and look at the great work the men and women of ICE are doing. Look at the great work the men of the United States Border Patrol are doing. This is what American people voted for. And when it comes right down to the end, I think American people can continue to support immigration enforcement, especially when we prioritize the worst of the worst.
Tom, last time we had you on the program, you were considering surging ICE into New York because of Kathy Hochul's policies. Where do you stand on that today?
It's coming.
And care to expand?
Yeah.
I can't, you know,
put a little meat on that bone there, Tom.
we're never going to forecast when we're going to be there, but I made a promise and we're going to be there. It's not, and she likes to call it a threat. It's not a threat. When we lose the cooperation of the jails, when we lose cooperation of the sheriffs, and we can't now rent a bed from a local sheriff to detain an illegal alien for his proceedings, that means instead of one officer arresting one bad guy in the jail, now we got to go to the street and find them if they release them, which means I got to send a whole team out. Because of what she signed, that legislation, we have to increase resources because it's going to take a hell of a lot more resources to arrest these criminals because we lost the efficiencies of the jail. It's not a threat. It's just a realistic response to losing the efficiencies of law enforcement working with us and the jails working with us. We have to increase resources because now we got more people in the public to find. And here's the downside. For her, not for me, but when we find that bad guy, many times he's with others that may not be a criminal threat. They're in the country illegally. Well, guess what? Collateral arrest will increase. And every illegal alien we arrest in that state will be put on an airplane and sent to another state to be detained because we lost the cooperation of local jails.
All right. Well, I'm sure that we're going to hear a whole lot more about this in the days ahead. Appreciate it.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.